Yeah, I'll start. Let's
go, Lindsay.
Yabba dabba doo.
The MLB regular season might be over, but the Joes on the Pros are just heating up here. We've got playoff baseball predictions with the wild card round starting right now. I'm Aiden taking the intro on this one. We got Andrew in the top corner that way, Brennan right above me, JR right to the side of me. It's playoff baseball time. It's the most exciting time of the year where dreams are made and October heroes are welcomed.
That was a good intro.
That was great.
But not only is this a wild card prediction episode, it's an expanded wild card prediction episode where we're not even going to talk about just 2 1-game. I can't even call it a series at that point.
I can't clown Phillies fans because the Rays also got in just because of the extra wild card. So it's not like I can clown.
Okay, yeah, but you can clown Phillies fans just like you can clown Mariners fans because the playoffs had to expand twice to accommodate us. Not
That's
once,
true.
But twice.
You missed out on the 16-team playoff.
Yeah.
from the COVID season.
Yeah, there you go.
Which honestly gave us our first taste of 3-game series, and
I loved it.
Baseball. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Baseball had to expand the playoffs 3 times to try and accommodate us, and it was on the third one.
Oh, there wasn't even a wild card the last time you were in the playoffs.
Oh, there was a wild card, just not 2 of them.
Because they would play the division. They would play the division winner on. It wasn't a wild card round.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Honestly, you put out a tweet today. I think it was you, Andrew, who put out a tweet today saying,
"Oh yeah,
who today should have been a game 163." And the fact that there's I understand the tiebreakers and trying to save arms and whatever, but the fact that there's no game 163 is an abysmal. Just baseball should be won on the field, not by tiebreakers.
Game 163 is the excitement that that Major League Baseball wished the wild card had. Game 163s had more excitement than those.
Honestly, game 162s and 163s I think are more exciting. Obviously, as a Rays fan, I think back to 2012 where Evan Longoria sends the Rays to the American League wild card with the shot right over the left field wall. Right in the corner. You want to know why the left field wall is that short there? And this is a fun fact. So they lowered it in 2008 because they wanted Carl Crawford to have more opportunities in left field to rob home runs down the line.
That's hilarious. I love it.
It's a good reason.
I gotta be honest. 162 games is plenty of games to decide the championship.
But the Braves and the Mets are tied.
Settle it on the field.
So what? It happens all the time in other sports. There's enough games. Get to the playoffs. They're both going in.
Game 163
ties are stupid.
Is entertaining. I think that is a wrong opinion.
Why do you think? Why do you think when soccer
opinion?
Why do you think
wrong opinion?
Why do you think when soccer actually counts, i.e., the World Cup, there's never a tie in the World Cup? You go to
because
extra
someone
time
has to
and then
advance.
You go to penalties.
Yeah,
you have to advance.
That's what really matters when somebody's going to be eliminated. Both of these teams are going into the postseason.
Okay, but you got to think. No. Okay. You got to think though. That is a huge type of advantage that's on the line here. If we still had a game 163, you're playing for the National League East division. Not only that, you are playing for a first round bye. Now that the Mets have lost that tiebreaker, they have to play now a 3-game series against the Padres while the Atlanta Braves sit at home and rest. And then if they win, they have to face the number 1 seed Dodgers in the second round of the playoffs. Okay. Whereas the Braves are sitting there waiting for the winner of the Phillies and the Cardinals. Which route would you rather have?
I honestly would also say, too, I think the fact that there's no reseeding with this many teams is...
I don't get that.
We've talked about that before.
I know. I'm still putting it back out there. It's a bad take.
This is where I'm putting a timestamp to say, check out our episode up in this corner about how we talked about how the current baseball playoffs are bad for baseball. Check it out.
Good plug-in.
They played 162 games for the spots. Let's get on with the playoffs.
You can't stop it for one game.
Would one day have killed anybody?
They should have beat the Braves in the season.
No, the fact of the matter is if we would have had a game 163, there would have been no baseball hiatus. Everyone would be watching baseball instead of a stupid Colts and Broncos terrible Thursday night football game.
No, the Broncos Colts game still would have had better ratings. That's the problem.
That's just because the NFL is just
The
for
NFL
some
is
reason,
a juggernaut. It
Exactly.
will never be topped.
But
The
hold on,
goal
we're not
is
talking-
They
Fair.
played 162 games.
Hold on.
It wouldn't have outperformed the NFL, but it definitely would have pulled viewers.
Speaking of, it's time to move on. I think now's a great time as any to move to our picks for the
Oh man, you're
wildcard
taking
round.
over all the stuff.
like it.
You're taking
I
control
like
from
it.
me right now.
Hey, I figured I'll give you a segment off. I'll give you a show off. You know, let you
right.
sit back and relax. You know, I mean, you still have to
needed
you still have to put the things on there because
I still have to
don't
edit.
know, but-
Oh yeah, that's right. That's true. I still have.
Yeah.
I have control over this still. Ha.
Yeah, but I can run the show here for this one. Why not? Why not? It's fun. We'll enjoy ourselves. So
And then we look back on the train wreck of an episode later.
hold on. Didn't you literally just give me credit for a good intro?
Yeah, good intro. I didn't
And
say
it was
you
a
had
great
the control over the
segue, too.
rest of the.
We've seen better, but we've also seen worse.
That's true.
So let's just jump right into it. We'll go in the order that it's on the screen, starting in the National League. Padres, they're a NL West winner. Sorry, it took me, or no, they're the wild card team. I forgot about
Number
that.
6.
I think of the
no, they're
Padres.
the five.
They're the
five.
five.
seed.
The Mets, who are the 4 seed coming into this matchup, Mets will host it at Citi Field in New York. This is
all
a really
3 games,
interesting
by the
matchup.
way.
All 3 games, which I don't hate, honestly. Like, even though, yes, one team isn't going to get home field, saving the travel is kind of nice. But going into this series, the Fernando Tatis-less San Diego Padres against the Mets.
Yeah, but they still have Juan Soto.
And they still got
hasn't
Manny
played-
Machado.
Who hasn't played very well as a Padre,
He
to be honest.
he played better in September than he did when he first started with the Padres. He's picked it up recently. I don't think it's to the level that Padres fans were hoping, but he definitely overcame his very slow start.
I mean,
I
We'll
believe.
close the numbers.
I
Yeah,
also
numbers guy,
finally
get on it.
we're getting our numbers guy back.
All right, you know,
Numbers guy.
Just to spite Aiden, he's gonna stop.
I would love to do anything just
I
to
mean-
spite Aiden.
I mean, in September and October, he's got a 726 OPS.
He's
not
also
great.
he's also has a 130 OPS plus since joining the team, which
It's pretty darn good.
However,
Yeah, but
I
it's
will
not
Well,
Juan
say,
it's
Soto
mostly
good,
powered.
but it's good.
Yeah, but
Let's-
that was mostly powered in August. I mean, he's definitely not performed well in the latter part of the year.
I also think you compare the back end of both of these bullpens. Josh Hader finally decided to turn it around against Edwin Diaz, probably 2 of the better closers in the game. I think whichever team gets to the back end of that bullpen with a lead, it's going to be tough for the other team to win.
I agree.
I think compared to you look at some of these other series and it's like, okay, the bullpens don't really, jump out at you. This is a series whichever team gets to the starter will win. Because both of
And-
these bullpens are very good bullpens.
And I'll just go ahead and give my prediction based off that. And I think it's the Mets that's going to get to the Padres rotation because I believe that the Mets rotation, yeah, you've had some down performances from their top 2 in Scherzer and DeGrom, but I think those 2 are going to step up come playoff time. And in a 3-game series where you got to face 2 of those guys, Padres are going to be struggling to score runs. So I'm going Mets in this series.
I think combination of coast to coast travel, plus with the Mets being the better team, I'm gonna go Mets too.
I am as well going to go with the Mets. I just don't think I've seen enough out of the Padres, especially as of late. And the Mets love hitting against this guy named Yu Darvish. So I really think it helps going into game 1.
Are you going to bring up those matchup stats for us?
For the Mets. I don't feel like it, but it's the eye test.
Now's a time where pre-planning would actually be really useful. I feel like pre-planning for football shows is not nearly as necessary as it would be for baseball ones because we could have all these numbers ready.
Yeah, we could. But I think also the Mets offense has just shown Eduardo Escobar had the hottest month of September. I mean, that man was scorching on fire. Mark Canha's hitting his stride. You obviously got Big Meat Pete Alonso out there. You've got
He was
Jeff
the RBI leader, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I believe so.
You got Jeff McNeil, who's having a great season. I mean, they've just got so
Average
many.
leader.
They've got so many guys on that team that for me, it's just Mets offense a little better than the Padres. Mets bullpen a lot better than the Padres. Mets starting rotation better than the Padres. It's Mets for me all the way. And we're going to be hearing trumpets in 2 straight games. I think it's a sweep.
You also have to remember the Mets had the second best record in the National League, technically tied for the second best record in the National League with the Atlanta Braves with 101 wins. A 100-win team is going to be hard to overcome no matter what round you're in. The Cardinals had to deal with it last year with the Dodgers in the one wild card game.
Yeah, it's not as if the Mets like faltered in the second half or down the stretch and let the Braves catch them. I mean, they still played well. The Braves just, were playing great also. So
it's awfully hard to stop an 114 win pace of like the last 100 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people talk about, how are the Mets going to Mets it up this year? The Mets didn't Mets it up. The Braves just absolutely
the Braves braved. The Braves did the same thing they did last year and absolutely scorched the second half of the season.
Yeah, I'm also picking the Mets. The Padres, did win the season series 4-2. So, they definitely have
what part
a
of the
shot
season
here.
did they play?
Well, I know, but that's the thing. I think the Mets just still have a better team than them, and really, that Padres offense relies so heavily on Manny Machado at this point, with the way some of the other guys have been hitting. That I just think there's too much there with the Mets and their bullpen and rotation.
Josh Bell is having a quietly pretty good tenure over in San Diego. You've still got Jake Cronenworth. You've still got Kim at short. Machado at third. You got Soto in your outfield, obviously. So they still have some guys out there. But I think what the fact of the matter is JR, like you said, they're relying so heavily on Machado right now that it's just not going to be able to flip the switch for them. And especially if you neutralize Machado the way the Mets pitching staff can, you're not going to score a lot of runs.
Here's an interesting question. If we were talking about a San Diego team that didn't have to deal with the Tatis suspension, what do you think would happen?
I think it'd be a 3-game series, but I still think the Mets would come out on top because, like Brennan said too, the coast-to-coast travel is difficult. And I also think that even with Tatis, the Mets are still a much better ball club, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it would expand it from 2 games to 3. I do think the Mets are going to win this in 2, by the way.
If you had Tatis in there, having played, the last however many games that he was suspended, and he's healthy, I mean, to me, that could potentially put them over the top. Just the star power alone. Potentially, yeah. I mean, maybe the Mets would still be favored because they still, are in a good position there. But I would definitely be very strongly considering the Padres to win it if they had Tatis healthy and playing, obviously.
I'd probably give it a little bit more consideration, but I still think the Mets run over them. I don't see any way that the Padres stand a chance in the series.
Which is crazy to think about because the Padres have been putting all of their resources into trying to build this super team to win the World Series. And yet we can't even sit here and say with Tatis that they would be a better team than the Mets.
I think they are a comical failure of a franchise. I say that as a fan of a comical failure of a franchise. Like this is what their 7th all-time playoff appearance.
All time, really?
But I think what the fact of the matter is that they've loaded up on offense, but their pitching staff is just average to mediocre. Like,
yeah,
what is mediocre if not average?
Darvish is getting old. Clevenger went down for the whole season. Paddock is not what he was.
For me, the reason if you had Tatis that it would most likely be a whole lot different, and why I would almost lean toward picking the Padres in that case is because you're talking about a 3-game series where you could have superstars really outweigh the balance of a team that the Mets have. I mean, in a 7-game series it could be different, but 3 games, I mean, you could have a couple of those superstar players really lead the way, to get you 2 wins out of 3. And that is something I could definitely see them being able to do and overcome the depth of the Mets lineup.
But don't the Mets have superstars as well? I mean, they've got Francisco Lindor, they've got Pete Alonso, they've got Starling Marte in center field. Jeff McNeil is always on the rise as a guy out there, and then on the pitching staff,
you've got conversation when we talking about superstars, and then we ended up on Starling Marte and Jeff McNeil.
Yes.
Hey, look, for me, I have seen multiple people in Florida walking around with Jeff McNeil jerseys.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but Jeff McNeil is not a superstar.
He's on the rise, I think. I think he's more in the conversation as the years go on.
Someone really needs to get one of those things like they swap faces back and forth really quick, and it's Juan Soto and Jeff McNeil. No difference. They're both superstars.
Wow.
Oh,
all right, let's just move on to this.
On to the next
game.
one.
We've exhausted this one. Phillies and Cardinals, a 3 versus 6 seed matchup. The number 6 seed Phillies, who just snuck in the wild card, versus the Cardinals, the NL Central champion. Andrew, we'll let you take this one first since we kind of know where you're going.
I mean, I'm going to get on my soapbox and just talk about the fact that the Cardinals and the Guardians are screwed out of playoff advantages because they win a division, yet they still have to play in the wild card round. So I'm just going to keep saying that's one of the dumbest things ever for a division winner to have to play in the wild card round. So I would say that even if my Cardinals didn't win, so I see you shaking your head, JR. I would say that even if it wasn't the Cardinals then. So
you're just
but
playing
it is.
You're playing the violin for everybody tonight.
Yeah, we talked about it on the last time. We said the baseball playoffs as they are right now are not good for baseball, and
again,
that's one of the reasons why.
That episode out up there in the top corner.
Oh, you're gonna make me do it again.
You guys talked about that. I did not agree.
Oh, that's right. You were the dissenter.
So Andrew,
yeah.
We assume you're going with the Cardinals in this series.
Oh yeah. So just the last time the Phillies were in the playoffs was what year?
2011.
2011. When was the last time the Cardinals won the World Series?
2011.
The magic of that year, 2011, the Cardinals being an unlikely team to even make the playoffs. What?
It's basically the same team.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's your pitching leader? Who's your pitching leader in F4? All right, it's Adam Wainwright at 40 years old.
Who's your best?
Actually, no. I thought it was Michaelis actually.
No.
0.1 better.
Who's your
barely?
Who's your best defensive player on your team? Oh, Yadier Molina. Same thing as.
Actually, no. Our best defensive player is not Yadier Molina. It's really? Nolan Arenado.
When does the rally squirrel show up?
That's what I'm wondering. Like, what animal's going to show up this
year? Let's go ahead and put that Cardinals in the Andrew box and move on.
No. I still have to make my actual case here. So the Cardinals run in 2011 was run on, like, people come, like, who are not Cardinals fans just call it voodoo magic. The Cardinals got that voodoo magic this year where they have Molina and Pujols in their last season in the major leagues, and they're going to ride that high throughout the playoffs. It's not necessarily because the Cardinals are a better team, though in this case, I do think they are a better team than the Phillies. I'm talking about like later rounds when they start playing teams like the Braves or the Dodgers or something like that. They have that drive to try to send out Pujols and Molina with a World Series ring. It's been a magical season already watching Pujols get to 700. Yadier Molina, Adam Wainwright setting the record for most starts by a battery. And I just want that magical season to continue. Now, with the actual stat side of it, the Phillies limped into the playoffs. They had a really bad month of September, and the only reason they are still in this wildcard spot is because the Brewers did worse. The Brewers couldn't capitalize on the struggling Phillies. And honestly, the Phillies, if they're going to win this series, it's going to be because of their starters overpower the Cardinals hitters, which the Cardinals hitters have not been doing well in September, so it's a possibility. The problem is that the Phillies lineup relies pretty much exclusively on hitting home runs, and the Cardinals are designed as a team to limit the home run ball with their pitching staff and their defense and their ballpark. And since all 3 games are being played in St. Louis and none of them are being played in Philadelphia, the Phillies are going to have a much harder time hitting home runs, and that's what they rely on their offense. Yes, I did study this matchup in particular because it's my team, and I went all in on it. I've been reading a lot of articles. So, yes, I am going for the Cardinals. Duh.
So, I'll take this next.
Go for it.
I saw some tweets today. I like it. I enjoy the Twitterverse. If you don't already follow me at Aiden on Air on Twitter. But
links in the description below.
It is. So one of my favorite things that I saw today, Albert Pujols will be starting Game 1 at DH in this series against.
He's starting
Zach
the whole
Wheeler.
series.
He's DH. It's going to be Quintana versus Wheeler Game 1.
Yep.
But there was a really interesting tweet that I saw today from a Cardinals beat writer. Adam Wainwright is available out of the bullpen this entire series.
Yeah, because they've already said Michael is the starting game too.
Adam Wainwright playoff bullpen magic. And also, you will never catch me dead picking the Phillies in any series. Go Cardinals, baby. Let's go Birds.
Actually, the funny thing is that Wainwright didn't even pitch in that 2011 World Series. He was injured that year. He was the closer in the 2006 World Series against the Tigers and had that famous curveball looking to Carlos Beltran with the bases loaded in the NLCS against the Mets in Game 7.
I'm just going to say,
so
what
there's
a way
the magic.
what a way to sort of come on to the scene in lack of a better sense, and what a way to end it.
He has not announced his retirement yet.
Okay, if he goes out with a ring, you got to think
if they win the World Series, he's probably calling it there.
let's not think about them going out with a ring yet.
JR as a Reds fan is like anything but that.
my dinner might come up.
Anytime I say the phrase Yadier Molina, he dies a little inside. That's the jersey I'm wearing right now, is my Molina jersey.
So JR, in that case, do you go with the underdogs and NB3 Bryce Harper?
So the thing with this series is, I mean, anything you look at points to the Cardinals. The Cardinals have an amazing record at home. The Phillies limped, into the playoffs, barely made it in there. I mean, everything about this screams the Cardinals are going to win, except for the fact that the Phillies did take the season series 4-3.
All the way back in May.
All the way back in May, but hey.
The contempt, you could just feel that.
They did.
Yeah, but also in that series, the Cardinals hit 4 straight home runs at not Great American Ballpark. Citizens
Bank or whatever it is
Citizens
now.
Bank. For some reason, I thought Citizens Bank was a football stadium. I don't know. Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think there is a chance that Aaron Nola, that Zach Wheeler step it up. One of them gets a win in the first 2 games to get it to Game 3, and anything can happen in the deciding game of a playoff. I'm going with the Phillies. That's
totally Reds bias, but
no, that is.
You know what? No, it's not totally Reds bias because I kind of wish I jumped in front of JR because every single point I was going to make is exactly what JR just said. I'm also taking the Phillies. I think that there is no way the Phillies lose both games where Wheeler and Nola start, and frankly, I think that they could win both of them.
Yeah.
Pitching to 2 MVP candidates and Albert Pujols.
Pitching.
I mean, Nola had a 3.25 ERA. Wheeler had a 2.82.
Where's Michael?
Hold on.
Michael has had it in the 2s.
Quintana has been dominant down the stretch. I mean, he's the one that worries me the most.
I will say I'm actually surprised that we started Quintana over Montgomery, but I think Montgomery has struggled a little bit recently.
The Phillies hit left-handed pitching better than right-handed pitching as well.
I mean,
I thought they had more power on the left side of the plate.
They have more power, but their batting average in BABIP is better against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Quintana's got a 2.01 ERA, and it starts with the Cardinals. I mean, he's been great since coming over there. So, I fully expect that first game to be a great pitching matchup.
I actually expect this to be the best of the wild card series.
I agree with. I can agree with that sentiment.
However, can you just let the Cardinals win in 2 and I don't have to worry about a game 3?
Andrew's like, my heart can't take that.
No,
he's had enough happiness in his life.
The first thing I said was that we're going to be relying on Cardinals postseason voodoo magic to make it to the World Series, and that's all I have to hope on right now. Because, like I said, aside from the Phillies, the Cardinals are going to have a hard time beating anyone once they get past the Phillies, and that's why I'm so nervous. That's why I don't want to have to worry about anything. Because I saw, like, the Cardinals, I will say, they didn't struggle as much as the Phillies in September, but their offense did not inspire confidence. Like, Goldschmidt really faded down the stretch. Arenado was okay. The only reason that they kept talking about the Cardinals offense was because Pujols was hitting all the home runs, which I think he had the most home runs since the All-Star break, even more than Judge did, if I remember.
He had
correctly.
18.
That's crazy.
Half the year, so I doubt he had more than Judge.
I also would like to point this out too. I know baseball people don't believe in home field advantage as much, but Busch Stadium in postseason baseball is a tough place to play.
It's true. I've been trying to get tickets. It's so expensive.
You know what? Teams
and also
win all the time.
Brennan, I've got a question for you.
And the Phillies have not made it. The second longest playoff drought just ended. I think that you cannot discount that aspect of it.
Yeah, I think you can discount that prospect of it because they're a playoff team that doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs.
But once you're there, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Under the current format they're in.
I just hope that the Philly season ends this year the way it did in 2011, minus a player tearing their Achilles. I don't want that to happen.
We don't support injuries here on Joe's.
No, we don't. I felt so bad for Ryan Howard when that happened in 2011. That's literally how they ended. That was literally the mark of the end of the Phillies, Howard, Utley, Rollins era and a Halladay era. That was rough for Phillies fans. Like I applaud you Phillies fans. Like definitely celebrate this, but I can't root. Like, if you were playing on the other side of the wild card, I would be rooting for you.
I can't root for the Phillies anytime. I'm still salty about 2008, and I will continue to be salty. Brad Lidge is one of my least favorite players of all time, and that's a great segue.
5?
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it was in 5 games.
No. I said, how old were you? Because it was a sweep.
I
said, how old were you? Like 5.
I know. I'm trying to think. I would have been, just about to turn 6.
There's no reason for you to be upset.
No, my first ever playoff game, my first ever in-person MLB game, like MLB actual game that counted, not a spring training game, was Game 7 of the 2008 ALCS, Tampa Bay versus Boston, and seeing Akinori Iwamura take the ball, take it, step on second, and just jump in the air after he did it.
Man, that's like nowhere else but down for a first baseball game experience.
Yeah, and like game 162 when Longoria hit that home run, I was supposed to go to that game, but I had the flu.
Oof.
But speaking of the Rays, that's our next series: Rays versus Guardians.
All right, you're going first.
Oh, I'm going first. I'm taking Tampa, which we know that already. You can already pencil it in. But I have some legitimate reasoning behind it. So, first, besides, yes, it's Homer. But at the same time, the Rays offense, even though they've lost their last 5 straight, have been putting a lot of good swings on the ball. I watch every single Rays game or listen to every single Rays game. They've been putting a lot of good swings on the ball. Pete Fairbanks at the back of that bullpen is just a monster, and the bullpen has continued to look very, very strong as September and October has happened. The Rays just got back this guy named Tyler Glass now, who's been great since coming back. He'll probably be good for 3 or 4 innings. They may use him out of the bullpen, they said as well. The Rays also, even no matter how much they struggle in the regular season, they always seem to put it back together. They always seem to piece it together in the playoffs and have some form of run. I also don't think the Guardians, outside of Tristan McKenzie on the mound, really have any pitching that really scares me too much. That I think the Rays, for me, look like the better team coming into this series. And I also think that the Rays, you think of it, the Rays have a history of winning at every single league of the minor leagues. They won 3 different league championships this year at the minor leagues. Durham has made it to the playoffs. I think it's 7 of the past 9 years, which is their AAA team, which a lot of these guys have been on. For the fact of that matter, the Rays are a winning culture, and also for the homer pick, the Rays are going to win the series. I think it's going to be a 3-game set, but I think the Rays come out on top.
Is Shane Bieber a joke to you?
He's not a joke. He doesn't
Shane
scare
Bieber's
me
better
against
than
this
Tristan
Rays.
McKenzie.
I think the Rays lineup has hit Shane Bieber well in the past, so he doesn't scare me as much.
I personally think that I think the Cleveland is a really good team who has not gotten nearly enough recognition because they play in the AL Central, which is the most overlooked division in baseball.
For good reason. The Guardians have the worst record out of anyone that made the playoffs, except for the Phillies.
You know what? Not going to dispute that. That's a fact. That's a straight up
That is a fact. You can't dispute a fact.
Well, actually, no. Did the Rays have a better record than them?
Yeah, by 1 game.
Yeah. So only the Phillies had a worse record.
Guardians won 92 games, dude.
Oh, then never mind. Yeah, I lied.
The Guardians won 92 games.
Okay, yeah, I knew they had the lowest record out of any of the division winners. That was where my mind was.
J-Ram and some guy named Andres Jimenez both had over 6 WAR as batters. WAR is not a great stat for any kind of analytical purposes, but it is a nice snapshot of value.
It is, but I think Jimenez was more from defense.
Rookie Stephen Kwan, 298, 373, 400.
Pretty good.
WAR.
They got players who can play.
WAR doesn't mean anything when going into the playoffs. If you can't win a game in the playoffs, you can't do much. Everything about the regular season affects the playoffs. Otherwise, the regular season is meaningless. Like, the regular season sets the context of the playoffs. You're right, but the regular season stats mean nothing when you get into the playoffs. It's about who shows
everything.
up.
How else do you make
decisions?
It means nothing. How else do you make decisions? Do you just look at a player and go, you look like you could be pretty fucking good? No, you fucking use their stats from the regular season to inform your decisions. We have had this argument before, and we are going to continue to have it because you're just foolish.
Wow, you wanted to use some other words there.
Thank you for your restraint, my friend.
I was going to use the ST word.
I knew what word you were looking for. Here's the thing. Great. Stats help you make an educated decision. But you know what? How I like to make my decisions sometimes, because stats
uneducated?
Story? No, the eye test. The eye test is what scouts still use today to evaluate players.
How well did that work out for, what's his name? The guy from Moneyball, who was supposed to be like one of the best prospects of all time and ended up flaming out and becoming a GM instead.
Oh, Billy Beane?
Yeah. Billy Beane was by the eye test one of the best baseball players of all time, but he absolutely crapped out. No,
my eyes tell me that Cleveland is 24-10 in September and October, and the Rays are coming into this losing 5 in a row and 9 out of 11.
What was the winning record of the teams that they played?
It just tells you they're playing well. They've won 2 out of 3. They won 2 out of 3.
They're beating teams that they should. They're playing crap teams in the AL
They won
Central.
2 out of 3 from Tampa Bay last week.
You know what? Winning games you're supposed to win should not be an insult to them.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, Cleveland is a much, much better team than Tampa Bay. They're going to win.
Well, there you go. All right. I got JR's pick.
I'm taking Cleveland as well. I think they're fairly evenly matched, but I think because they're going to get overlooked, I'm going to give them the edge.
I think
that if Aiden was not such a obvious homer who says dumb things, I want to say the word, he says dumb things because he just wants to get a rise and be a homer, he would also agree that both teams are very evenly matched.
Oh, I think both teams are very evenly matched. But
he even said this is a 3-game. He said it was going to be a 3-game series.
He also said he uses the eye test, which he does not think that that's true. He's just saying it for this podcast.
No, I do use the eye test. As a broadcaster, sometimes you can't just look at the stats. You have to eye test players. Because here's a great example. One of the top 10 prospects in the Minnesota Twins organization, his name is Noah Miller. This year he hit .211 with a under 300 or an under 350 slugging percentage. However, he is one of the best defensive shortstops I have ever seen. This man throws out runners who are not even halfway up the line. He doesn't take a double clutch. He gets to balls that many people doesn't see. He reminds me of a better defensive version of Andrelton Simmons.
Okay, so how do the defensive metrics look on him? Because I bet you if the eye test looks good on defensive metrics, the defensive metrics are probably good, which is what the team
They were decent. They weren't off the charts, but they were decent. But I'm telling you, eye test wise, he makes it look easy. So I'm saying the eye test is something I use to evaluate.
Let me say this. Watching the eye test requires you to be focusing on one team and ignoring the context of the rest of the league, and that gets you into trouble because when you're watching one team and you're watching one set of players consistently, you tend to overvalue how well they play.
I disagree. I think the fact that I've seen all the ups and downs of the Rays season this year, like for me, the Rays continue to use Taylor Walls and he fails the eye test. That man is a terrible player. I don't know why we start him at second base. Like, I get Brandon Lau's on the IL, but I think the fact that we're not giving Jonathan Aranda more ABs, who's a much better hitter and an equal defender to Taylor Walls, is just wrong.
By what metric are you saying they're equal defenders?
I like how he just didn't bother disputing what I said and just leaned more into it.
How did I lean more into it?
I said when you focus on one team, that's what you watch, but you have to in baseball because it's impossible to watch the entire league. You tend to overvalue the players you're seeing more often. I overvalue Mariners players. I believe that Ty France is the best contact hitter in the league because that's what I see. I know it's not true. But when I watch him hit, I think that.
No, the best contact hitter in the league is Jeff McNeil.
All right.
He's a superstar contact hitter.
He's a superstar contact hitter.
All right. Well, to wrap this up, I hate the fact that it's going to make us exactly the same. But...
No, I love the fact it makes us the same. Look at we have team wrong.
Hey,
we don't know whose is who, but we have team right and we have team wrong. I'm happy.
Not necessarily. We could split the two in the middle.
Well, for each game, there's team right and team wrong.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
We'll trade off.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't really know too much.
We're team right.
I don't really know much about the two teams. I haven't really paid much attention to the Rays and the Guardians, honestly. But I know that let me just say this about the Guardians. They should all just get shirts that say I survived the AL Central, because that division was a joke this year. And I can say that as a member of a fan of the NL Central who was almost just as bad of a joke, honestly. Sorry, JR. But I think the Rays having to get out into the wild card while also being in the same division as the Yankees and as the Blue Jays, who are both also wild card teams, means that they have faced
very easily gotten in.
What's that?
The Orioles too, who could have very easily gotten in.
The Orioles were also a lot better than a lot of people anticipated this year. Look out for them in the upcoming years. Yeah. They're going to be scary, by the way.
I'll be honest with you. The Orioles being near the playoffs is a good argument against, is a good argument against why the playoff field being expanded is bad. Like, they're a good team. They're an improving team, but
they're not ready for the playoffs yet.
Exactly, but they were so close because the bar for getting to the playoffs is so low.
Yep.
Like, and this is nothing, not a direct insult against the Rays team. The Rays do not deserve to be in the playoffs. Neither do the Phillies. I think there's a reason you have to start cutting it off, because at a certain point in time, you're going to let every team with a winning record in, which would be you're almost there. You're almost there.
Anyway, my point is I feel like the Rays got through to the playoffs facing tougher competition, had pretty much the same record as the Guardians. And I think the fact that they had to go through that tougher competition makes them better prepared in a playoff series, especially just a 3-game series. So I'm going with the Rays.
Also a factual stat as well. The Rays have had the most players go on the IL this season.
So?
Injuries derail seasons all the time.
Yeah. I'm just saying that there was, as well, for the fact of the matter is we lost Wander Franco for a portion of time. We're still without probably one of our best sluggers in Brandon Lau. We lost Tyler Glasnow for most of the season until he came back this year, who was widely considered our ace. Like, there were a lot of big injuries that, if they were healthy the entire season, we probably aren't talking about.
Every single team in every single season has.
I'm just making another point. I'm making another point. I'm just counteracting your point of saying that the Rays don't deserve to be here.
They don't. They do not deserve to be in the playoffs.
He's saying it because they're the last seed.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if the Rays and Mariners were flipped, he would not be saying this.
No, I absolutely would. We don't deserve to be in the playoffs either. I hate that the drought got broken this year. I am so incredibly upset. And right now, in my mind, the drought's still going.
Here's something spicy. I wonder if the Rays started throwing games at the end just so they can get the 6th seed, so they wouldn't have to face Toronto and Houston going through the playoffs.
I think they'd rather face Cleveland and New York because they know how to play against them, and I think Toronto is a harder place to play than Cleveland.
Nobody actually does those.
No one does that.
They already clinched. They might as well just rest their players until they get to the playoffs.
But they didn't rest their players.
I don't know. Did they, Aiden?
I mean, Yandy Diaz took some time off, but outside of that, I mean, Franco played a little bit less than he normally did, but outside of that, they didn't really rest players.
Yeah, it's not like they pulled their starters or anything. They were all playing to win.
Cardinals did.
All right.
Cardinals have a bunch of old guys. They rested their players.
The thing is, the Cardinals had already clinched the division.
That's right, but the Rays had clinched the playoff spot.
But they were still fighting to.
They were still fighting for.
No, they weren't.
No. My point is they didn't have any. There was no reason for them to fight for a higher seed because a higher seed would have meant a tougher path to the playoffs.
Look, if I'm the Rays, if I'm the Rays, I'd much rather face Cleveland and the Yankees rather than facing Toronto and Houston.
Yeah, we say that. Nobody in that clubhouse or on that team says that. I promise you.
Maybe the players don't.
I think that is a mentality born out of overthinking things. Like
that's a fan mentality, to be honest.
It is. By the way, to back up, just to reiterate, they don't deserve to be in the playoffs.
Oh boy.
The worst team in the playoffs this year is not the Phillies. By wins, the amount of wins, it's the Rays. The Rays have 86 wins. The Phillies have 87.
I was wrong. I thought the Phillies had fewer.
I did too. I thought they had 85. I just went and checked, and I had the numbers switched around. Yeah, 87 wins for the Phillies. The Rays have the lowest win total.
And you want to know? Wins and losses don't matter once you get into the playoffs. It matters what you do in a playoff series.
Yeah, but
and the fact that they have that
opportunity. The
opportunity.
regular season decides who goes to the playoffs, so wins and losses absolutely do matter.
They don't matter in the playoffs. Once the season ends, once the regular season is over, wins and losses don't matter. It matters what you do in these games. Correct?
But if we're trying to predict what's going to happen in the games, what else are we going to base it on?
The eye test is judged by Aiden.
No, shut up, Brennan. Shut up. Because that's not what I'm saying we judge it off of. What I'm saying is that we can use it as a way to judge it, but the fact of the matter is that saying wins and losses matter for whether... Huh? No, fine. I'll just shut up then, because apparently whatever I have to say doesn't matter, because you're just going to keep, saying my point's wrong, my point's wrong, my point's wrong. When the fact of the matter is that every team is now 0-0, and it doesn't matter what happens. How many times have we seen wildcard teams go on to win the World Series? We have seen the Giants do it. We've seen the Braves do it. We've seen the Cardinals do it. I mean, I can continue going down the list. The fact of the matter is that wins and losses, once you get into the playoffs, don't matter outside of home field advantage. And the fact of the matter is that once you get into these series, you're 0-0, and all you have to do is worry about winning the next game. Correct?
So then why are we talking about what anybody did in the regular season?
The fact of the matter is, apparently there's literally no point to doing any kind of analysis because it's all random. The fact of the matter,
let's flip a coin for all the predictions.
That using any kind of the regular season's meaningless because you cannot use it to predict any kind of future results. The fact of the matter is
that's not what I'm saying though.
Hold on. Let me mitigate this. You are both correct. Aiden is correct because it does not matter what the win-loss record once you start playing the playoff games. But Brendan is also correct in the fact that we are trying to predict the outcome of these games, and that the win-loss total helps inform who we think are going to win the games. You are both correct. Calm down. End of story. Done. Am I wrong?
The fact of the matter is you're right.
That's
stealing Aiden's line.
It's a very complicated answer there.
Man.
So we should probably just move on to the last series here.
Before they kill each other.
We're never going to kill each other. This is how we are.
I'm not worried about that.
If we weren't separated by a couple thousand miles, we'd be hugging.
No, yeah. All right, let's move on to Mariners Blue Jays here. Mariners going into Toronto.
Why did you get to lead?
Because I've been leading this whole episode, all right? So let me do the
intro. He's introing it. He didn't say that he's giving his prediction first.
Jesus.
I'm completely and totally torturing him now.
Mariners making the cross-country road trip across the border into Canada to play in what is one of the loudest postseason atmospheres, which we have seen many times over, i.e. the Jose Bautista bat flip era. Brennan, you are a fan of the Mariners. What do you think is going to happen?
I think we are going to get our asses beat.
Hey, he's realistic.
I would love to be more optimistic. I would absolutely love to tell you that we are going to have a Cinderella run and we are going to win the World Series because I want that to happen. I do not think it will. I think that the Mariners are a team that is a season away from truly being dangerous. Back-to-back 90-win seasons are not nothing. We have won 90 games in consecutive years. That is awesome. That is a massive step up. We have, I honestly can't remember the last time we had back-to-back winning seasons, period. Because I was probably an infant. This team is good. This team has pitching. This team does not have offense. And I think you go first of all, you have to travel to Toronto, which already in itself is a massive detriment to any team.
Actually,
on the road.
Before you go any further, kind of speaking on that, are there any players on the Mariners roster that is not going to be allowed to go to Toronto?
Canada has eased their restrictions that you no longer need to be vaccinated to enter the country.
That wasn't a problem for us anyways because our organization insisted on it.
Yeah, that's been like one of my fears about if the Cardinals make it to the World Series.
When we went there earlier this year, I don't remember it being a story. We're not like the Royals who had 15 players who couldn't go.
12, I think.
That was a lot.
With the Cardinals when they went, they didn't have Goldie or Arenado.
The only two who I think would be that way were Adam Frazier and Jesse Winker, and neither one of them are really core players on this lineup. So,
well, Winker's out anyway; he's hurt.
No, that's right.
Anyway,
I
moving
meant
on. Sorry,
couldn't go last time.
I had to ask that question because you were talking about going to Toronto. So anyway, move on.
The Blue Jays have better pitching than us, despite the fact that our talent is good. We're young and developing. Outside of Castillo, Ray did not have a very good year in his first year in Seattle, and oftentimes pitchers who sign big deals in free agency tend to suck the first year when they go to the new team for some reason. I never understood why that tends to happen. I'm sure he'll continue. I'm sure he'll be good as the deal goes on, but this first year was a bit of a struggle. He was league average at best. Castillo was awesome when he got there, but I don't know if Castillo, Gilbert, and Kirby are enough to match up with Gossman, Manoah. Who's their third guy?
You say Kikuchi?
Yeah. Kikuchi is not the third. Kikuchi is not the third guy. He sucks.
He's the only other Blue Jays starting pitcher that I could think of.
Ross Stripling or Jose Barrios. I mean, Barrios did not have a very good year, but Ross Stripling did. I just think that the Blue Jays offense is so much better than our pitching. And I think that our offense is terrible. I'm so down in the dumps. I said it earlier. I really wish we hadn't made the playoffs this year. I really wish that the drought had not ended this year.
Because it gave you a little bit of hope.
Yeah. I wanted the drought. I want us to really make the playoffs. If I really make the playoffs, I mean make the playoffs under the rules of the system the last time we were in. I wanted us to be the 4 seed or win the division. I will care then. For now,
fair.
This team's getting their ass beat.
Would you say that in order to end, you would want to end the drought by bringing the rain? Oh, so sorry. The bringer of rain is on the Yankees. Never mind. Sorry, that was bad. I'll go ahead and make my pick. I agree with Brendan. I want the Mariners to go far in the playoffs, but I just don't see it happening. I will be rooting for them the entire time. They are my favorite American League team that is in the playoffs, but prediction-wise, I can't see it happening. I'm sorry.
J-Rod will absolutely hit 2 home runs this series and make at least 3 amazing plays in the outfield. And steal a base.
And steal a base.
I will prop bet that.
JR?
Speaking of J-Rod, do you know how old he was when the Mariners last made the playoffs?
I don't think he
still in his
wasn't even born, was he?
In the womb, wasn't he?
10 months old. He was 10 months old.
Less than a year old.
I am going the opposite way. I do think the Mariners have enough to win this series. I do think this is going to be an entertaining series. Luis Castillo, my heart is a little bit in Seattle with some of the former Reds players
that's
there.
What it is.
I love Gino so much.
But I will say, Castillo has made 1 postseason start, and he pitched extremely well against the Braves in 2020. He's been great since coming over to Seattle. And I think he and Manoah in that game 1 is going to be a great pitching matchup. And I knew Robbie Ray didn't have the greatest season coming over, but he still had a pretty respectable year, and so did Logan Gilbert. Looks like he's probably would be the Game 3 starter. I still think that the Mariners have enough to get it done and are gonna move on.
I think the Mariners are positioned amazing to be the team of 2023.
Watch
Ray in his second season.
2023 ALCS, Mariners, Orioles. Calling it now.
Yes!
That would be amazing.
We all get behind that, except for Aiden, but who cares?
Honestly, I can kind of get behind it, though.
Yeah!
I mean, and the Mariners did lock up Castillo for a couple years on a new deal.
He did.
Yeah, 5 years.
They got Ray, they got Castillo, they got Gilbert, they got Kirby.
And it wasn't like a crazy expensive deal, too. It was reasonable.
Yeah, it's about 20 a year, 20-21 a year.
I expect the Mariners to use what prospect capital they have left to make a big splash trying to get another hitter.
Wonder who that might be.
I think this team knows the window is here.
Do they have any money for free agency?
I'm sorry?
Do they have any money for free agency? Because there's going to be a couple of shortstops on the market.
I was just about to say Carlos Correa to Seattle sounds about right.
Or Dansby Swanson.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. He could play second.
I wouldn't spend that money on Dansby Swanson.
He wouldn't be as expensive as Correa.
No, he wouldn't. I would rather have Dansby Swanson.
No way.
Over Correa? Over Correa, yes.
Why?
Correa would be way too expensive for us. I understand that.
Okay, money-wise, but talent-wise, you'd rather have Correa.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I meant for my team.
I'm not a big Dansby Swanson guy.
I think you can sign Dansby Swanson to like a 1 year, $12 million deal in a free agency, and that would be perfect.
I think he's going to get overpaid just based off of this year, and I don't think he's going to repeat.
I think he doesn't even hit the free agency market.
You think the Braves are going to lock him up?
They've locked up everyone else. He's the next guy.
Yeah, but he's going to cost more than players like Michael Harris.
He loves playing in Atlanta.
Yeah, he may give them a hometown deal. If he gets out on the free agent market, he is going to be so overpaid.
Oh yeah.
If he gets out in the free agent market, I think he goes to the Los Angeles Angels for the simple fact that he wants to be near his girlfriend, Vanessa Hudgens.
And the Angels throw out massive contracts that don't pan out. So honestly, that's a perfect destination.
Can we not talk about the Angels and how they ruined the careers of some of the best players ever, aka Pujols, Ohtani, Trout,
CJ Wilson?
We all agree that the Angels are the Detroit Lions of baseball.
Oh, that's actually a good comparison.
I think JR heard the name.
I heard it.
Hey, he was a good pitcher in Texas.
He was.
All right, Aiden, let's get your pick here.
Robbie Ray returns to Toronto. Robbie Ray pitches very well in Toronto. Robbie Ray won a Cy Young in Toronto. Robbie Ray about to give up 6 dingers to Vlad Jr. and Bo Bichette, Toronto.
About face.
I honestly think this is going to be another 3-game series just because I think Luis Castillo versus Alek Manoah is going to be the matchup of the first round of these playoffs pitching wise. Even though I really like Quintana versus Wheeler, Darvish versus whoever the Mets choose to start game one.
Would look up Michaelis versus Nola over Quintana Wheeler.
I am so annoyed.
But hold on, I'm not done. But here's my other take on this. I think that we talk about home field and it doesn't really matter, but I think Toronto is a hard place to play, especially when it comes to the playoffs. In general, Toronto is a tough place to play, especially when you're doing a cross-country road trip. And I don't know, something about Bo Bichette and Vlad Jr. just remind me of a more athletic Jose Bautista and Edwin Encarnacion playoff Blue Jays 2014-esque friendship homer style thing.
Their home road record is pretty similar.
Yeah, I was going to say, so this just gives me a lot of those vibes. However, I think whichever one of these teams make it flames out in the next round.
I just remember one of the games I went to in St. Louis this year was a game where the Cardinals played Toronto, and Vlad hit a nuke for a home run way over the Cardinals bullpen in left field. That dude is a man.
let's also not forget that George Springer becomes a different animal in the postseason as well. Yeah. They still have him, and he turns it on in the playoffs.
That game 1 starts at 3:07 Central Time while I'm at work. I will
be working during the Rays game at 12:07 Eastern Time.
I'll be working during the Cardinals at 1:00 Central.
Who thought this was a good idea?
Nobody.
This is why baseball struggles with ratings. Not the entire reason, but it's part of it.
I guarantee though, if there were any West Coast teams that were the home teams, they'd be starting them at like 10:00 Eastern.
Yeah, it'd be like 10, 7.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. Let the fans watch it when they get off work. The fans mostly live out there.
Exactly.
I mean, I am a Mariners fan, but I will be watching this game in the middle of the day, and the Mariners fans who live in Seattle will be watching this like straight up during the middle of the day. They can start this game on their lunch break.
Yep.
Brendan's gonna be in his office at work, just like having the TV on with the door locked. Don't come in.
I wish I had an office. That would be awesome. We have a TV out in our waiting area, and like there's like a little bar where customers can sit at, and it covers about half the TV, so I can see the top half from my desk. That's what I'll be watching.
I'm just thankful I work from home. Sorry.
Well, we now have all of our ideas of the playoffs. I'm going to ask you guys one final question here before we wrap up.
Why'd you copy me, Aiden?
Huh?
Why'd you copy me, Aiden?
I don't know, because I felt like it. It was fun. Because great minds think alike, and obviously we're going 4 for 4.
You know what?
You saw my record from the NFL predictions.
Yeah, I kind of.
He might know what he's doing.
What? I would like to do something, and you can put an asterisk on it if you want. I want to change my pick to the Mariners.
All right.
You know why? You know why? Because I think it'd be stupid to not do my homer pick, and I also want to stay on team right. You should never pick against JR.
You just have no. You were just getting OCD about it. You just want to make it symmetric.
I got my wingman back.
Can we get an asterisk, please? Andrew, can we get an asterisk, please?
The person that, of course, Aiden's begging for the asterisk.
I don't care. Put it on there. He got an asterisk for changing his pick.
Yep. I'll just copy it from his pick. There.
It's fine.
I deserve an asterisk. I don't care.
Watch it be the difference, though, is that Aiden or Brendan actually gets his right.
All right, so one final question for you all. Here, we'll go. We can go away from the predictions for a second. We'll go back to this. Who do you think is going to be the hitter? Who's going to have the best hitting series in any of these series? Like, just who's going to be the best hitter of the wild card round?
Just one person out of all 4?
One player out of every team, all teams involved.
Bo Bichette. I said flat, start off with, and I thought about it and went, nah, let's go Bo.
Do you know Bo?
I do know Bo.
My sentimental pick will be Pujols. My realistic pick will be Pete Alonso.
Pete Alonso, yeah.
I like it.
I'm going J-Ram. I think J-Ram has a big series carrying the Guardians to that series win.
My number 2. If I didn't take a Blue Jay, I really wanted to take Quan.
Ooh.
That's fair. My homer pick will be Randy Arozarena because he turns on in the playoffs, but my legitimate pick will be George Springer.
Fair enough.
I think that's the best thing. Well, I guess since I introed it.
Whoa! Wait,
you got more?
You said batter. What about a pitcher?
Oh, pitcher of the playoffs. That's fair. What pitcher?
The wild card. Pitcher of the wild card. Yeah. You go first, Aiden.
Give me. Are we doing starter or reliever? Or does it matter?
I think we should say starter because they're gonna have enough innings pitched.
Well, see, here's the thing though. The Cardinals are bringing all 5 of their starters with the plans of using a couple of them out of the bullpen. So I don't know if you can even say that.
But how do you quantify just like one inning matched up against a 7-inning starter?
Right. Who do you think is going to have the performance that raises their team up the most? Whether they're pitching in one game as a starter or pitching in multiple games as a reliever.
I think it's Luis Castillo setting the tone in game 1 of that series, coming out dueling Alek Manoah and putting the Mariners up right away.
Yes, it's Homer, but I think it's true. I'm going to go with Shane McClanahan.
McClanahan's pretty good.
I'm going to take another Shane, and I'm going to say Shane Bieber.
I'm gonna go a little bit risky just because it's gonna be a homer pick. He is not listed as a starter in the first 2 games, but I think the Cardinals actually used him out of the bullpen this week. Jack Flaherty is going to be used out of the bullpen for the Cardinals and come in key spots and give the Cardinals what they need to move on.
It'd be kind of cool if he had he had 2 shutdown performances, like a 2-game sweep or something like that.
Yeah, or that just had like 2 innings in both games where he just came in like 6th, 7th, or 7th, 8th.
No, that's what I said. 2 shutdown innings, right?
Yeah,
like, completely locked. Like that's killing any momentum.
I think that's how they're planning on using him.
Or is he going to come in, Madison Bumgarner style, pitch 5 innings out of the pen and absolutely dominate a game?
I don't think he'll do that. I still think like they're going to rely on Helsley at the back end, so I don't think he's going to come in and pitch like the last 5 innings. But I think he's going to have some meaningful innings that he's going to pitch.
I think you're less likely to see that kind of Bumgarner performance in this wild card series just because the turnaround is so quick to that DS round. Like, if you throw a guy out there for 5 innings, I mean, you're burning him for several days.
Isn't the DS only getting 1 off day this time?
Yeah, the DS starts Tuesday.
Yes. Well, no. I mean, like in the middle of the series, usually you have off between 2 and 4. After 2 and 4, I think after 4 is gone. I think 3, 4, 5 are played in a row, if I remember correctly.
I believe so.
And there's only that 1 off day after game 2.
I think that makes. I think so. I think that sounds right.
NLDS schedule.
Sounds right. Let's call it right.
If it sounds good, it must be true, right?
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think you're right on that because it looks like they would end potentially on the 17th.
Yeah, it says, so I'm looking specifically, they have the schedule for whoever the Braves play. They play 11th, 12th, and then 14th, 15th, 16th. And they have to travel between 4 and 5, even though they play on back-to-back days.
Yes.
Because they still have the split as 2-2-1.
Yeah.
Yeesh. Game 5s are going to be nasty.
Game 5s are going to be gross. All right, last question, and then we'll call it quits. How many 3-game series do we see in this wild card round?
2.
3.
I say 2. I say 2.
So I'm the only one that says 3. I think the Cardinals win in 2. Everyone else is 3.
I think Mets win in 2, and I think Blue Jays win in 2. I think the other ones go to 3.
I just want to see chaos. I just want to see a bunch of game 3s and not have to worry about my team being in a game 3.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You have our wild card predictions and preview special here for Joe's on the Pros. Make sure to follow all of us on our social media channels down below. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe as well for all of our latest content. It's been a whole lot of fun. We'll come back next time with, I believe our next episode is going to be more playoff predictions when we get to the divisional round. And then after that, you'll go back to our regularly scheduled football programming, but we will continue to talk baseball playoffs as well throughout this. We've got great content coming through. Make sure to follow our Twitch channel as Brendan and I are cranking out some fun little Madden content over there as we can. So that's a lot of fun. So make sure to come take a look at that. For all of us here on Joe's on the Pros, we appreciate you listening. Take care, and we'll see you guys next time.
World Cup next month.
Hell yeah.
It's next month. JR's like, see ya. JR is that meme of that kid going.
No, JR is Homer Simpson just going into the bush but never coming out.
Yes.
That's a lovely pose.
Just do.
This is a family show.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
You know what that looked like? That looked like
the playoffs.
No, you know what that looked like? That looked like the old Greek statue of like the dude who's doing discus, who's got like the
yeah.